Happy New Year's, folks. I'm back, and I gotta tell the arachnophobes in the room to look away now because today is the day we finally covered League's cocoon queen herself, Elise. Support Elise isn't exactly a new idea. It's been played in the LCK by Lehens, who also used to one-trick it in solo queue in Season 6 and 7. And aside from those moments in the spotlight, there hasn't been much traction for Elise Support. She has by far the lowest play rate out of any off-meta support video we've done so far, and her win rate doesn't look too immaculate either. But there is one former Japanese challenger player who has rediscovered Elise Support this preseason and has already been using it to quickly climb the ladder even just a few days into Season 12. The player we're analyzing today is known as SSR, the player who previously held the top recon in the world title but has since moved on to, over the past month or so, strictly playing Elise Support to some phenomenal results. SSR started playing League in Season 6 on one of his first accounts, climbing the ranks primarily as a mid and jungle main to where he, in his very first season, was able to hit Master Tier, which by itself is impressive for sure, but over the next few years he continued to climb higher and higher, and eventually switching to support and maining Rakan, he was finally able to peak at Challenger 700 LP. While I was in contact with SSR, it's a bit hard to nail down his exact history without being able to reference his old OP.GGs. You see, after speaking with him, he told me that he does regularly sell his accounts once they reach high elo. I inquired with him how much accounts typically go for when he sells them, and he told me they could range anywhere between 10,000 to 80,000 yen depending on how highly they're ranked. This information quickly sent me into a spiral, researching the going rate for high elo accounts, sending me to some sketchier looking websites where I confirmed that for Japanese account this was right on par. But for some more popular regions like EUW, a challenger account could go for close to 2,000 US dollars or around 210,000 yen, which is insane. But before I get too deep into that, it's a whole different video. Let's continue on with SSR. On his journey to challenger, he did discover Elise Support in Season 8, where he played her over 100 games and ended the season with a 66% win rate on her. Now, in Season 12, he has once again started dumping games into solo queue where he is maining Elise Support and has found some foolproof ways to generate consistent cash and do damage that look like he's getting income from the jungle. Throughout both preseason and Season 12 so far, he has over 150 games played as Elise Support between his two accounts that he currently has, and has accrued over a 57% win rate where he is currently ranked high diamond, soon to be master. Give him some time, the season just started, where he continues to climb higher and higher to this day. SSR also has a YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, so I'll go ahead and leave those links in the description below for you guys to check out after this video. Before we get into how to play as Elise Support, there are a few issues with her that we have to get out of the way first. For one, Elise is mana hungry. Although her spider form abilities are free, a few casts of her human form abilities will quickly leave her Similar to other off-meta supports we've covered, Elise's 1 CC ability is both pivotal in her kit and can't go through minions, meaning that if you aren't good with it, you're going to have a tougher time doing much as her. Elise scales incredibly well with higher income and will more than likely fall off if you're not able to get some big chunks of cash early in the game. And finally, and most importantly, Elise, just like myself, has a tough time making her own food, and instead she normally gets it from the web. But even with all these potential problems, SSR has found a way to make it work. For those unaware, Elise, like Nidalee, has two forms that she can change into by using her ultimate, which is automatically unlocked at level 1. The important things you need to know here is that human form is ranged and costs mana to use her abilities, and when hitting abilities, she stores up spiderlings. When switching to spider form, Elise releases those spiderlings who will help her attack things. Her auto attacks will do bonus magic damage, every auto attack from her or her spiderlings will heal her, and she innately has increased move speed. So if you're ever traveling long distances around the map, or going back to lane, or looking for a roam, it's best to swap into spider form to get there faster. At level 1, SSR will always level up his W or volatile spiderling in human form. Before minions spawn and throughout the game, he uses this ability to scout out bushes and fog of war to see if there's any enemies in there or an invade coming from the enemy team. After running from base and scouting out an area with volatile spiderling, he'll place his trinket ward and then go back to grab his sweeper, which is going to be important for his gameplay later on. Then, if he needs to, he'll assist his jungler with a leash, and let me tell you that his junglers love him. SSR uses his ultimate to transform into a spider, and uses his spider form's W, or skittering frenzy, to increase him and his spiderling's attack speed and do some massive damage alongside his jungler and ADC to the first buff. He'll let his spiderling stay aggroed onto the camp to also tank 2 auto attacks for his jungler before finally going off to lane with the buff camp nearly being dead. Also note that skittering frenzy is an auto attack reset, so when using it, he'll typically auto attack first and then press W quickly after it to attack twice in succession. Level 1 to 2 in lane, he focuses only on poking the enemy down as much as possible with his human form's W while also staying safe. Once he levels up, he could either take his Q or E next. If the jungler started topside and is pathing bot for a gank, he'll typically grab his E in human form, which is called Cocoon. Cocoon is a line skill shot that does no damage and stuns the first enemy it hits. Landing Cocoon is so important for Elise to set up the rest of her combo that we'll talk about a little bit later, and SSR is one of the best at doing it regularly, just barely missing enemy minions to catch his prey. At level 1, this ability stuns for 1.6 seconds, which is significantly longer than most any single ability stun in the game, which is good because he maxes this last. In spider form, Elise's E is Repel, which when targeting the ground shoots her up into the air, making her untargetable for 2 seconds. When recasting it on an enemy within that 2 seconds, Elise will come back down behind the enemy once again. It's worth noting as well that if you press E on a target and not the ground, Elise will instead repel for 1 second before coming down behind that enemy. It may be strange to say at first, but this is by far her best ability. It's almost like having a Zhonya's in your kit, but a Zhonya's that lets you move behind a target afterwards as well. And although I just said enemies, it's really not just enemies. It's pretty much anything that's targetable that's not an ally, including minions, neutral camps, enemy wards, and even jungle plants. It gives sight within the cast area also, so even if you don't have a ward on a neutral minion, you can still make an escape over a wall. This ability lets SSR outplay so many of his opponents in lane and throughout the game. In lane, he can regularly overextend past minions to get a big combo off, and then safely repel back to those minions behind him if he's in trouble. This is also what makes Elise Support so strong against hook supports. Imagine a Blitzcrank pulling SSR past the minion line. All he has to do is E right back to the melee minions in front, and the hook was effectively worthless. And that's if he doesn't already dodge the hook or ability with it in the first place. He also sometimes uses both his spiders and human form E's in tandem if the enemy is far away. SSR can repel in, get right on top of an enemy, and then land his cocoon point blank, setting up some easy roams or follow-ups for his team. Going back to lane in early game, again he's now level 3, and he finally takes his Q, or in spider form what's known as Venomous Bite. This ability is nasty and is Elise's strongest nuke ability that does more damage the lower health an enemy has. You can seriously do some ridiculous damage that most enemies are not expecting a support to put out as long as they're low health. So it goes without saying that this should typically be one of the last abilities you use in a combo. Oh, and if there's any spiderlings alive when you use Venomous Bite, even a volatile spiderling created from Elise's human form W, they will all jump and turn aggro onto the enemy you use Venomous Bite on. Opposite of the spider form Q is your human form Q, also known as Neurotoxin. Neurotoxin is a point and click ability that does more damage the more health an enemy has, so this should typically be used at the beginning of a combo, which we'll discuss the most basic combo that SSR uses now. For full damage, he will start in human form and land his E. He'll quickly use his W, typically casting it to the side so it won't hit anything. He'll then use his Q to do more damage as they have more health, and then immediately switch into spider form. Once in spider form, he'll use his Q, both nuking the enemy down and commanding the spider he casted with his W in human form to jump on the enemy. He then lands a normal auto attack, and then right after uses his W to reset his auto attack once more and continue to pile on the pain. Notice that I didn't mention using Elise's spider form E or repel in this combo at all, because you may potentially not have to use it at all. Or you could potentially use it in the beginning of the combo as a gap close, or at the end to escape, or in the middle if you need to get closer. Judge the situation you're in and choose what's best for that. Now knowing all the basics of how SSR plays and uses his abilities, you can see how it all comes together throughout the game. We're back in lane again at level 3, and he now has all of his abilities, which means he can go fully aggressive on the enemy laners. He has 8 abilities to the enemy's 3, so it's clear that he has the advantage here. But Elise is still mana hungry, so he's not just spamming abilities on a whim. He's using that early sweeper he bought to sneak into lane brush and really control it throughout the game. So much of his gameplay during the whole match is about surprising enemies in brush. Early game, he chills in lane brush so long that people think there's no plausible way he could still be in there, only for him to pop out and win a 2v2 or 1v1 no problem. And it doesn't get any better after he gets a kill. If the enemies start playing safe after dying and are hugging their turret, not even that can help them, because Elise is arguably, since the Pantheon shield nerf, now the best support at tower diving, and it's pretty much risk-free. SSR uses his basic combo by leading with his cocoon like we talked about previously, and because it does no damage, the turret won't aggro him just yet, which allows him to get even closer to the enemy. Once he finally does hit a damaging ability using his Neurotoxin or human form Q, he'll happily tank the turret first for his ADC or ganking jungler, because now at any time he can easily use repel to become invulnerable and pass off turret aggro to someone else. One of Elise's weaknesses that we discussed at the top of the video was her insatiable need for items and money, which in the support role can be few and far between. But SSR caters his runes in such a way where it's almost like he has an infinite money glitch. He brings both gold generating keystone first strike and secondary keystone triumph to help negate his low income. Elise's full combo happens so quick, the whole thing can benefit from the additional true damage window for first strike, and it's not uncommon for him to have upwards of 3,000 gold generated from his runes and support item by the end of the game. Elise also, being a jungler in her main role, is unsurprisingly great at killing neutral camps, which can also help SSR with his income and beyond that, winning the game overall. If his jungler is topside at 3 minutes and 15 seconds when the first scuttle spawns, he won't hesitate to quickly grab it. Similarly, if SSR is roaming or coming back from roam and he sees an open small camp or scuttle, he'll be happy to swipe it from the enemy jungler as well. And speaking of roaming, SSR can do so as early as level 3 and continues to do so into the mid game. He again uses his full combo and also turret diving tricks that he previously used in his own lane. If he's able to time his roams correctly with his jungler when his minions are pushed or right after he backs, his absence from lane can help push the lead of another and also set himself up for more full combos from lane brush in the future once he finally returns, since the enemy may think he's still off roaming. Aside from roaming in the mid game, he pretty much keeps up the same flow. He clears vision to find picks, he takes jungle camps and scuttles as they present themselves, or he even graduates to taking Rift-Tailed or Dragon by himself if he's established good vision control or knows the enemy team is on the opposite side of the map of him. If he's got an early lead or a few kills, there's really no stopping him from nuking down anyone or anything that gets in his way, thanks to all the income he's received from his runes and jungle clearing as well. Once teamfights start happening, he told me his main objective is still to try to pick off the squishy damage dealers of the enemy team, using his full combo or darting into the backline with repel if he has enough damage to take them completely out of the fight. He regularly plays somewhat safe with his backline until an opportunity arises, but once it does, he's quick to pounce, or repel, I guess. One other thing Elise is great at doing in fights is stalling. You know what I mean, fellow support mains, when I say sometimes the enemy team just wants to kill you because you're a poor little mage support with little resistances and health. Well, if enemies are collapsing on SSR, he can waste so much of their time by using the 2 seconds of untargetability from his repel and also the 2.5 seconds from Zhonya's too. 4.5 seconds of total time that his team has to either destroy the enemy that went deep in attempts to kill him or buy him enough time to where the enemy doesn't feel safe anymore and has to run away. For his build, he starts every game with a Spell Thief's Edge. From there, he starts to build the first half of his mythic item, starting with a Hextech alternator for more burst and then finishing his level 2 boots before doing so, always getting sword shoes. He then switches back to building his mythic item, most often getting a Night Harvester as it really just offers everything Elise could want. On some occasions though, he will instead buy a Hextech rocket belt if an enemy has built a crown or the team is a bit more slippery. He also builds a Zhonya's Hourglass as another core item. For his 5th item, he looks to the enemy team. If they have a lot of healing, he may build an Oblivion Orb that will eventually turn into a Morellonomicon. If they have some scary CC abilities like an Ash Arrow, he may build Banshee's Veil. Or if the enemy team has a shield bow, he tells me he will try to slot in a Serpent's Fang, which I know sounds a little sus, but who am I to judge? If the game goes long or he needs some more oomph in his build, he'll build an Elixir of Sorcery, and throughout the whole game, as a good support does, he's buying control wards or a ward stone if the game goes late. For his runes, he brings First Strike for more gold generation and damage, Magical Footwear to save even more cash, Biscuit Delivery for more sustain in lane, and Time Warp Tonic for some nice burst heal and movement speed. He also brings Triumph for more healing and gold generation, as well as Coup de Grace for even more execute damage. For his flex runes, he brings 2 Adaptive Force and either armor or magic resist depending on his lane opponents. If you aren't a fan of First Strike, he also sometimes runs this Electrocute page that you could also try out, or make sure to go pay him a visit on his stream or YouTube, as he's always trying out new things with Elise support. Elise works well with ADCs with CC like Jhin or Caitlyn, or aggressive ADCs like Draven or Kalista. Elise support struggles against poke ADCs like Ezreal or Ashe, or poke supports like Xerath or Vel'Koz. It's so good to be back, y'all. I'm sorry this video took a little bit longer to come out as I'm learning a new editing software, and if you loved this video, I heavily suggest you check out our last off-meta support video on Twitch support. See you guys next time. Peace.